What's up, Diablo 4 players? So this is going to be one of the most important videos. We're going to be talking about fake upgrades as well as how you're doing masterworking wrong. Basically, if you didn't know, you will actually get more stats from upgrading certain things in the game, and there are also certain masterworking upgrades that will actually give you nothing, straight up give you zero value, and it's kind of confusing. I wanted to go ahead and condense this all into one video. But at the start of the video, I do want to give a huge shout out to Andariel because he's the one that I got some of this info from, and was basically showing off the stats. Like in this picture over here, you can see where it says vulnerable damage and vulnerable damage, which one is better to masterwork. Now, it goes further than this. It's actually a huge issue with Diablo 4. There's like different bugs, and certain things don't behave the way that you may think. So, to go ahead and start with the video, I want to go over masterworking certain upgrades. And certain upgrades don't actually give you the same value if it's a roll versus a temper. So, to kind of explain what I want to start off this video with is the same exact example that he is using. So, it's basically looking at the greater affix and the crit strike damage. So, let's say you're building a build and you need to get like vulnerable damage or crit damage or whatever. Normally you would think, okay, well, if I want to min-max and I want to get the most value out of my skill, well, what would give me the most numbers? You would think logically, obviously upgrading the one that's the higher number, when you get that masterworking crit for the 25% bonus on the crit strike damage with the greater affix, that should be a no-brainer. That number is bigger, therefore 25% of 195 is going to be bigger than 25% of 181. Technically, it's not exactly this because it would start off at a lower number, which if we start out the lower number here on the masterworking on this one, we'd start off at like 150 and 125. And again, if we were to like rank it up, it'd go up 5% every time. And then once we would get to the next one over here, this is more realistic what the actual number would look at. But we would look at, let's say, 165 versus 143. Which one would you want to masterwork if you only wanted crit damage? The answer is actually the lower number. Even if you get the lowest number on the temper, it gives you more value than getting it on the greater affix for an upgrade. Why is it this way? Apparently how it works is it doesn't take into consideration that it is a greater affix, and the temper mods are actually stronger than the affixes in terms of the number. So what does this actually mean? You actually want to masterwork, and you want to actually specifically at 4, 8, and 12, actually you don't want to hit that crit strike damage. The reason why is it gives you less of a number stat. So if we were to look at this, look at this number right here, which is currently set for, if we do it like this, we go from 513 to 550. But if I was to masterwork on this one, we get 560. Why? The reason why is because Diablo 4's math and the whole inner workings of this game has so many problems that it really just comes down to content creators having to make videos and say, hey, this glyph is broken, and then they patch it. Now, is this going to get patched? I don't know. But the thing that it becomes a problem is that a lot of people are re-rolling. If they wanted crit strike damage, they're trying to masterwork on the greater affix, which is wrong. You're wasting materials, and I'm going to save you gold by telling you, if you masterwork and you hit on the regular one, that's the one that you want to hit on. And the reason why is if we go all the way up, so let's say even if we use the lowest roll, okay? Obviously, if we use a higher roll, the numbers are going to be high, right? If I was to start off with 246 and then hit all of the different masterworkings when we're ranking it up, it would be higher because the number would be higher. But even if we take the 183, it is still technically the lower value compared to 195, and even if it's greater affix, you don't want to hit on it. So basically what it comes down to is I can kind of do the math here. So if it's a greater affix, we go from 195 to 270, that's a difference of 75, right? But what's the difference if we start off on the lowest one, which is 183, and we go to 275. Well, I did all the math for you guys. So basically, how it looks is you get a total of 75 on the greater affix if we go and triple masterwork it. Even if we don't even look at it as a triple masterwork, even like single, double, it still is in your benefit to actually get the lowest temper roll. Even if it's the lowest temper roll, you will still get the bigger benefit. Now, if it's on the highest one, you get even more, so you get plus 128 in terms of its total. Now, what does this actually mean? So if we math this out, and we take only the bonuses that we're getting, so this would be, again, 195 plus the bonuses that it would go to plus 270, that's a difference of 75, right? Now, if we were to take both of these numbers and subtract them from the highest roll, let's say this was like the max roll, right? The difference of that, well, the difference of that is 128 or 75. The difference is 53% damage. So you'd be losing out on 53% of the damage, but it goes even further beyond this. And this is what I wanted to add to this video over here. So normally with certain uniques, it actually behaves differently. And I want to go ahead and show you guys an example over here. So we're going to be using this example for some gloves. Now, most builds in Diablo, you would want to try to get ranks to, let's say, Twisting Blades, let's say ranks to Rapid Fire, Pulverize, whatever build that you're playing, right? It could be even on the pants, right? Where you're trying to get like ranks to like Heartseeker or Bash Barbarian. So if I was to say go for the ranks of Twisting Blades, right? And I started off over here at specifically a greater affix, because usually people would only want to try for, like, let's say a greater affix. Let's say we start off at 0. Now, if we hit the greater affix, we would go +1. Now, if I go to maxed out Masterworking, what does it also give us? It doesn't matter. It's always going to be +1. Now, that's not the same with uniques. And the thing that becomes really hard and makes it really confusing for everyone is because the math is all different here. If I was to, let's say, get the Grasp of Shadows, and I just go and have a 12 out of 12, and then I hit 1 greater affix on core skills, what do you think it goes to? You'd think, oh, well, you're going and getting +1 extra one. You get +2. So why is the math so confusing on this? And I'm going to explain kind of the fake stats as well. So normally when you would say masterwork on these, you would get +1 every single time. And the reason why is it's determined by specific uniques have special properties where you would get a rank. And you might think, oh, well, it must be because it's unique. You get +1 on every single one, including the greater affix. Well, that's definitely not true with certain numbers, because if we go to an item like Banished Lord's Talisman, and let's say we get it to be 12 out of 12, and I get the Masterworking on the first one, you can see it goes from +2 to +0. This is a fake stat, right? Now, if I go into another Masterwork, I still also get nothing, so that's 2 stats wasted. But if I put 3 in, then I get 3. Now, it gets even weirder when we go ahead and have a greater affix one. You can see it didn't even go up. So what I find is even more interesting is if I start off at 0 over here, and in terms of Masterworking, if I have a greater affix, I go to +2. Now, let's say I start Masterworking, I get nothing. On the core skills only is what we're looking at. I go to +4, nothing. +5, nothing. +6, nothing. +7, nothing. 8, 9, 10, I'm still at +2 all the way through. Now, why is this? Why is it that, like, I masterwork, and if I don't crit, I get nothing? But this is where it gets even more interesting. If I put 1 Masterworking crit on it, I go to +3. Now, if I put in another one, you might be thinking, oh, then do you go to +4? No, it's a fake stat and it gives you nothing. And if I put another Masterwork, it gives you also nothing. So these are basically fake stats. And there's even more crazy things that go on with this, and I'll kind of explain it. So not only is there differences between specifically uniques as well as hitting some of these masterworkings on, but if I was to, let's say, have gloves, if I don't masterwork, I could actually still crit on the item. And basically what it comes down to is you're going to have to test these out. But if I was to, again, get some gloves, if I was to make some brand new gloves over here, let's go ahead and remove these. And let's say go back to those Twisting Blade ones. If I was to rank it up from, let's say, 0, let's say it was a greater affix, so I'm excited, okay, and I'm going to rank it up, and I'm ranking it up, I get to 4. If I hit it, it will give me 1. But if I don't hit it, it won't give me anything until a very specific number. Now, what is that number? Well, it's actually going to be 7. Now, past 7, if I go to 12, is that going to give me anything? And the answer is no. It won't go past 7. But you saw on the unique, things behaved a lot differently. And the thing is that you're just going to have to test these out. My best suggestion would be to use the Max Roll Diablo Planner. It's probably the most accurate one that we have. There's a lot of different websites that may have these, but a lot of stuff may not actually be accurate with every single thing across different websites. You're going to have to just kind of test it out. And the thing that I found even more interesting with these sort of crazier tests, and it not only just with uniques behaving differently, because this happened with some people and they were posting it over on Reddit. I remember it happened specifically with Scoundrels Kiss. All right. I did find the post. So this person was confused. They're like, Masterworking, what the heck is wrong with this? To explain it simple, by just looking at the picture over here, we have a Scoundrel's Kiss. One is 925, one is 887, and they both have the exact same Masterwork. They both exactly hit the Masterwork crit on rapid fire, and now you can see the number in blue says +2, the other one says +4. Now, why is it different? Well, the thing is more likely the roll probably originally started at a different number. It does not give you the equal amount of numbers, but it's based off of a percent that the original number has at the start. I know that may sound confusing, but in reality, the best way to do is to actually just test it out. Where they had an item that had lower item power, and it actually behaves differently. Most people will have 925, but just keep in mind that item power can also determine certain sort of rolls on the item. In terms of like, how much, crit can it roll, how much, attack speed or whatever, because they go into these special things. Again, these unique items will behave differently, and the best suggestion that I can give is just to test it out. Now, another interesting discovery was actually that these two dodges are actually different numbers. I'm not even talking about, if we masterwork it, which one is better if I was to, let's say, lower this to a lower number. This is not even like where I'm telling you guys, max out the tempering one because the temper one is secret and it gives you more stats than even a greater affix dodge. What's more interesting with dodge and certain other stats in the game is some sort of weird diminishing returns that you get. If you've ever played Diablo 3 and you start getting too much cooldown reduction, you'll know if, let's say, I'm at like 50% cooldown reduction and I get another 20%, you might be thinking, okay, I get 70, right? That's easy. 50 plus 20 equals 70. No, it gives you what's called inverse multiplicative. And without getting too far into like all the math things, because Diablo 4 has a lot of bugs. But the weirdest thing is now that you can actually get 100% dodge in the game, it's kind of broken. And this actually might become a problem in the future for Season 5, because if you get 100% dodge, well, you're just not going to take damage, right? And they're trying to not make it so you can become immortal, as they've most recently said, Mortal Sorcerer, sorry, you're out of the game. So what's going to happen is we could run into the situation where players are getting now too much dodge, because how it works is normally when you get dexterity or getting some sort of dodge chance, or you can even get dodge as a legendary aspect where you get like extra dodge chance or whatever, these actually will behave different than the temper one. So even though this one says 8.9 dodge, and I was telling you guys that, well, if I was to masterwork, it's different, right? Because the other one would give you a higher number. That you could easily visually see. But this 11% is not a real 11%, but this 7.9 is a more true 7.9. And the reason why is if you go into the character sheet, it may not be accurate again on every single website, but the dodge chance on the temper gives you more numbers in dodge than the actual number. And I know that it might sound kind of crazy, but that's how the game is coded. I don't know exactly why it's set up this way. It's that the affixes have diminishing returns, while the tempers don't apply the same rules to it, which is, I'm guessing, it's some sort of inverse multiplicative. It's because if you guys have played in Season like 0 or Season 1, when people used to play PvP, they would get as much dodge chance as possible because people could just one-shot with Hoda Barb. But you would try to get as much dodge as possible. And once you get past like a certain amount, like getting to like 30-ish dodge was really difficult to do in Season like 0 and 1 because there wasn't a lot of stats and you couldn't temper on to get more dodge chance. But now with the dodge chance, you can get more stats, but the tempering dodge does not apply the same rule of like, okay, if you're like at 30%, another 10%, it wouldn't give you 40, it would just give you like, 2 or 3%. It would just give you way, way, way worse, and it gets harder and harder to get dodge as you go along. But the tempering ones, again, don't apply the rules. So it's going to be different. I know that I kind of open up the can of worms with even more crazy questions of like, okay, well, what else is weird like this? The thing is that I don't know every single thing that behaves this way, and it gives you stats that you're not supposed to get. The fake stats where you're getting masterwork ranks, and it does absolutely nothing to your character, and it doesn't even explain that if I was to get this masterwork more times, because I wasted stats on this thinking, oh, okay, well, I got mine greater affix, I hit a crit, cool. I got the second one, and then I would reroll the item, wasting my gold. So I'm trying to save you guys gold by telling you the best solution is just to go test this out for yourself, especially on uniques. Uniques have some crazy weird things, and they don't follow the rules of everything. So keep in mind, Diablo is a game that, I want to say it released in a state where we're constantly getting these fixes and bug fixes where certain glyphs and things don't apply. Some are additive and supposed to be multiplicative. Some are supposed to be multiplicative and are being additive. Hopefully, this will kind of raise some alarms so you guys can actually get more damage, more defenses in the appropriate areas, because, again, the game doesn't actually explain all this. But that's going to go wrap up the video. If there's anything else that's kind of weird, like the dodge or any unique things, let me know down below, and maybe we can follow up with a future video. But yeah, very interesting things with this game in terms of like how the masterworking and like how the damage, you were getting less damage if you maxed out an item that had more numbers. It's backwards. But anyways, that's gonna wrap up things. If you guys enjoyed this video though, drop a like on it if you learned something new, and I'll update you guys in the future, so don't miss out on if there's some crazier updates with the masterworking and basically all the fake stats, so you guys don't waste gold. Anyways, take care. Peace out.